Alright, what is up guys, it is Storm back here with another video, and in this one I am bringing you part 13 to Mightless, a My Hero Academia story by the mysterious banana. Now if you want to check this story out for yourself, the link to it will be down in the description below. But before the video begins, if you like the content you're seeing, be sure to subscribe, like, and comment. I mean, they're all free, so why not? If you want some dope channel merch, the link to that will be down in the description below. And if you want to see more of me, go check out my other channels and go follow me on Twitter and Instagram, which will all be linked down below. But without further ado, why don't we just dive right on in. The first official day of class was as standard as any high school goes, from conventional courses like math, English, to even PE, which Izuku always found odd since isn't the hero training course already technically PE? Anyhow, it was as boring as anyone would expect, and Izuku found himself mostly taking notes the whole time off any and all school staff and teachers. Not even the cafeteria's cook was safe from his analytical grasp. Third period rolled around, when the hero courses were about to begin, and Izuku had done nothing but gather info from the school. Heading to the homeroom, he bumped into Ochako by coincidence. Guess the world always finds a way to stick the two together. Izuku noticed her and quickly tried to hide his notes, but the brunette's lightning-fast eyes caught the notebook within its sight as she floated the book right out of Izuku's satchel. "Hey, give that back," yelled the panicked student, trying to grab his notebook as Ochako floated it towards her. "Wow, that's a lot of notes you've taken on the teachers. You even drew a sketch with vital weak points?" asked the curious brunette. Izuku tried to come up with a reason to justify his notes. "You must be a super fan. I've seen people like you creep on different heroes and attempt to get anything substantial from them. I once even heard of a kid who, according to eyewitnesses, was such a big fan of All Might, he was seen grabbing onto his ankle as he leapt around the city," she continued energetically. Izuku blushed in embarrassment from her description. "Can you please return my notes?" he asked. "Oh, sure," Ochako said, sort of embarrassed herself. As Izuku continued his route to his class, he noticed Katsuki sulking by his locker, and decided that now was a perfect time for some payback for all those years of abuse. So Izuku bought a soda from a nearby vending machine and waited. From the notes he has taken, this was usually where Ito would walk by. Sure enough, there he was, coming from the opposite side of the hall, surrounded by at least 4 students, asking him about some math or English notion they don't understand. Izuku threw a pen at their direction, right where Katsuki was standing. Katsuki turned his head to see what that pen flying by was about and locked eyes with Ida, just as Izuku planned. Knowing Katsuki, this would probably be where Katsuki gets pissed at Ida's popularity and attempts to trip him. Sure enough, he already stuck his foot out. With the setup fully realized, he just needed to play his part. Just as Ida was coming close to Katsuki, he came running at him from another side with a soda can open. "Ida, thank God you're here. How do we do the— Whoa!" Izuku ran to Ida, intentionally tripping over Katsuki, flinging his arm backwards and spilling purple liquid all over Katsuki. Ida saw Izuku tripping and quickly ran to help him, but not quick enough as Katsuki picked Izuku off the ground and slammed him against a wall. "Deku, you fuck! Look at what you did to me. I'm gonna break you beyond repair. You hear me?" Katsuki yelled at him, as his rage caused his soda-drenched shirt to boil. "Stop that right now," Ida called out. "It was obvious that you were the one who tripped him. Now apologize." "Trip him? I was gonna trip you and he got in the way, so I should be pounding him twice as hard," Katsuki yelled, attracting the attention of everyone around him. "You were what?" the tall senior-looking student uttered in anger. "You're despicable." "Yeah, screw you, Katsuki. Leave that poor kid alone," yelled the girl to his right. "Yeah, leave him alone," yelled another student. "You're always so loud. Can you just shut up?" yelled another one. "Yeah, and to think he wants to be a hero, he should just resign before the teachers do it for him," yelled a shorter student in the back. "Yeah, resign," yelled another student as a mob was practically gathering around Katsuki. "Resign, resign, resign, resign," the mob yelled in unison, as Katsuki felt backed up into a corner. "See, Kachan?" A voice was suddenly heard behind him as Katsuki turned to see Izuku smiling. But it wasn't his usual smile. This one was cold, sadistic, beaming with twisted pleasure. "No one likes you, and you still call yourself number 1. Katsuki didn't have time to register as someone in the crowd threw an empty soda can on him, followed by a barrage of crumbled up papers, apple pits, eraser heads, not the actual eraser head, and even some quirk attacks. "Fuck off!" Katsuki yelled back at the crowd, hoping to silence them, but it had the opposite effect. "Wow, and now he's fighting back on us. What's wrong with him?" some of the students mumbled. Katsuki was stunned. All of his life, he was used to people doing what he said, always being on the giving end, but now being on the receiving end, he felt powerless. If he attacked, he would just be digging his grave deeper, so what could he do? Sucks, doesn't it? So, how does it feel to step into my shoes? Izuku asked, letting out a light giggle, causing Katsuki to avert his attention to Izuku. No, you're not Deku, Katsuki uttered. What's wrong? Can't accept that you no longer scare me. Well, you do now. Look around you. Everyone's against you, pinning you down and peeling away your face to reveal the giant L hidden under your forehead. Isn't it hurtful? Cry, you miserable bitch. Cry, Izuku said sadistically, before breaking down into laughter. No, I am Katsuki Bakugo, the future #1 pro hero, and I will not be outshunned by you losers, so fuck off, Katsuki yelled back, louder than the crowd, before running away, trying to hide the tears running down his face. As Katsuki left, Ida, not noticing Izuku break down, ran to help Izuku up. Here, up you go, Ida said, helping Izuku get up to his feet. Thanks, bro, Izuku replied. No, I should thank you for taking that fall from me, replied Ida. It's nothing, trust me. I don't think he'll be much of a hassle now that practically the whole school will hear of this, replied Izuku before walking off. See you in class. This was what everyone in Yuuei signed up for, and was looking forward to, the hero course. What the class was not expecting was the teacher for said course. Dashing through the door, All Might came in a spectacular fashion. I have come through the door like normal, the #1 pro hero chanted out as he valiantly dashed from the doorway to the podium in a mere millisecond. As the class discussed about their teacher, Izuku clenched his fist as All Might started his opening speech. I would first like to congratulate all of you wonderful students. Not everyone makes it into Yuuei, you know, All Might said proudly. Yeah, a few months ago you told me to just quit, and now look at where I'm at. Brushing it off like it never happened. Some pro hero you turned out to be, Izuku said to himself. Now, without further ado, let's get straight to the point. Your hero course of the day will be battle training, All Might said. The class shook with excitement as several glass cases started getting shipped into the room, as they already anticipated their contents. Our costumes, the students thought with hype. The costumes are all designed to fit your individual quirks and are completely under the design you have sent us. Now, get changed and meet us outside. This will be... All Might's speech fades into a monologue as minutes later, the students in their respective costumes stepped out. Your first step at becoming a hero. Izuku was confused, however, as he completely forgot to send in a costume design, yet still received a costume. Not only that, but the box had a completely different design from the rest, and when he opened it, there was a note attached inside. His heart dropped like a brick when he recognized the handwriting. Hey Izu, I noticed that you still don't have a hero costume, so I sent you one on my behalf. Be sure to try it on. I'll be watching. God damn it, Toga, Izuku said to himself. The costume itself looked more like a Sebastian meets Neo cosplay than an actual hero costume. The long black leather trench coat with a formal white suit underneath, complete with a butterfly knot, giving a more mobster feel. Underneath the suit were concealed weapons like knives and guns and a syringe with a purple liquid inside that says, only use in emergency. Okay, not saying anything too embarrassing, Izuku said to himself. Hey, who exactly is HT? Ochako asked, running up to him. Huh? Izuku asked, confused. Taking off the coat, he saw a giant inked in white text on the back of the trench coat, written property of HT in a bold font. Of course you would, Izuku murmured to himself. Shall we begin, my students? It's time for battle training, All Might said, gathering everyone's attention. Sensei, it would appear that we're in the same compound that was used in the entrance exams. Does that mean that we will once again perform another cityscape maneuver? Asked an armor-clad soldier next to Izuku, whom he recognized as Ida. Nope, instead, you'll be moving to Step 2, Indoor Anti-Personnel Battle Training, replied All Might. While it's true that most villain battles are commonly seen outdoors, most villains statistically show up indoors. As a villain myself, I can confirm that that's true, Izuku thought. Between confinement, house arrests, black market deals, and this hero-phile society of ours, the most clever villains hide indoors. And since no current technology can generate the clever enough AI, you will be split into teams of villain and heroes, and face off on 2-on-2 indoor battles, explained the pro hero. So this isn't basic battle training, commented a froggy-looking girl. Practical experience is the best way to teach you the basics, replied All Might. It wasn't long before All Might was bombarded by a barrage of questions. Unable to keep up, All Might pleaded for the students to ask one at a time. Just then, a voice was heard in the far back of the group as a boy in a black trench coat called for everyone's attention. "I've read everything already," Izuku said, holding onto a pile of papers. "The weekly schedules. How did he get a hold of that? I had in my..." All Might thought as he suddenly realized his hand was empty. Starting from the top, since our teacher is terrible at descriptions, this basic battle training program is meant to put our strengths, tactics, cooperations, and problem-solving skills to the test. The teams of 2 will be put into a small building, a villain side and a hero side. The goal of the villains is to protect a bomb that will detonate if the heroes don't stop it. While there won't be an actual detonation, the bomb will emit a loud noise from its installed speakers, announcing the villain's victory. Or they can win by defeating the heroes. The heroes, on the other hand, can win by securing the bomb or by incapacitating the villains. "Any questions?" explained Izuku in a calm and patient manner. The whole group stood still, including Katsuki. Izuku, on the other hand, simply let out a warming smile. "Well, I guess not. All Might, will you do us the honor and draw the straws to decide the partners?" Izuku asked. "He's the real teacher here," thought most of the students. Oh, of course," All Might replied, returning to consciousness after getting entranced by his speech. In the end, Izuku ended up with Ida of all people, and Katsuki ended up with Ochako. The rest of the teams formed. Finally, we get to the main event. The first 2 up are, All Might said while picking into the 2 boxes. Team A on villains versus Team D on heroes. "Team A, that's our team, and who are we facing against?" Izuku asked. Suddenly, Izuku's heart raced as he saw his opponent, Katsuki. "Izuku, are you alright? You seem awfully giddy," Ida asked in a worried tone. I'm fine, don't worry about me," Izuku replied. "The villain goes in first, and the heroes will follow 5 minutes later. The rest of us will watch via CCTV," All Might continued to explain. "Izuku, Ida, you boys need to adopt a villain mindset. This is practical experience, so don't hold back." Ida turned to Izuku. "Now listen, Izuku, for someone like you, I know acting as a villain may be tough, but do your best, okay?" Ida asked. Izuku smiled back. "Don't worry, I make an amazing villain impression. You'll see," Izuku replied, happy he can now be himself. "Try rating my performance out of 10, okay?" As Izuku and Ida entered the building, Katsuki and Ochako waited outside. The spike-haired hothead looked at the building entranced. "Deku, what in the world is going on inside your head? Wait, could it be..." "Yo, Katsuki, hello, you in there, buddy?" asked Ochako, trying to break him out of his entranced state. Has being admitted into Yuuei made him grow arrogant? He must think that he's on my level now that we're in the same school and class, Katsuki thought as he clenched his fist. "And I'll just have to show you where you really belong, you trash." Meanwhile, inside the building, Ida took a good look at their objective. Playing the villain role is really displeasing. This isn't even that well made of a bomb, Ida said to himself, as Izuku looked out the window in anticipation. Seeing Katsuki all pumped up made him all the more excited. Without intention, Izuku let out a murderous grin and cackle that caught Ida's attention. "Is everything okay, Izuku?" Ida asked, confused. "Oh, nothing. I was just practicing my villain acting," Izuku lied. Suddenly, the start of the training was announced by All Might from the speakers, and Izuku saw Katsuki dashing into the building, even knocking his teammate over in the process. His legs shook with excitement as he felt lightheaded from the rush of adrenaline he was getting. "Damn, this is too much for me to take. I must kill. No, not killing. Can't fight it," Izuku was saying to himself as he bit his lips, trying to make him snap out of it. "Are you okay? We can call it off if you're not feeling too good," Ida replied. Suddenly, Izuku turned around to Ida. His lively green, bloodshot eyes glared into his soul, as his smile gleamed with a murderous aura. His fist shook as he slowly turned away and walked towards the stairs without saying a word. Wow, he wasn't kidding. He's an amazing impersonator. For a minute there, I thought he was actually going to kill someone. Back downstairs, Katsuki dashed across the building, not even slowing down to analyze anything. Suddenly, he heard a noise come from the window. He rapidly spun around and fired an explosion towards his target. "Ah, it's me, Katsuki, it's just me," yelled Ochako, nearly the top of her head burnt off. "Oh, it's you," replied Katsuki nonchalantly. "Not even an I'm sorry for nearly blowing your head off?" asked Ochako. "Hey, it's your fault you snuck up on me like that. I'm here to murder Deku and nothing else," Katsuki said. Suddenly, Ochako froze. It wasn't from the shock of Katsuki's aggressiveness. That she was well aware of. Rather, it was what was behind him. Cuts. Ochako uttered, jittering. Katsuki, confused from her initial behavior, suddenly felt a presence behind him. A bubble of aggression even larger than his. Turning around, he saw his target. But something was different. He expected Izuku to be hiding on the top floor while Ida did all the work on the ground floor. But rather, Izuku arrived alone, staggering like a zombie almost. "Ah, there you are, Kachan. I was thinking about you for so long," he cried out. His face was blushing and his smile made him resemble more and more like Toga, but even she would ask him to tone down things a notch. "What the fuck, Deku," was the only thing Katsuki could mutter out. "You were such a bully back in the days. The mere thought of it pisses me off. I've been waiting for so long for payback. Every day I would lie in bed, imagining the shock on your face as the kid you thought of that was nothing more than a pebble in your path became the boulder that would crush you dead in your tracks. I couldn't bear it any longer," Izuku said ecstatically, with a hint of anger, murderous intent, and lust. Upon hearing this, Katsuki took control of his anger and clenched his fist. Ochako could feel it. Katsuki wasn't any less angry than he was a few minutes earlier, but now, his anger felt more controlled, restrained. "Ochako, run to the top floor. The two of us have a score to settle," Katsuki ordered to his companion. Right, Ochako said, running past Izuku, who didn't even turn around to look at her. With the two of them locked in a death stare, Katsuki finally got the courage to speak up. "So, I guess this is what you really thought of me, huh? Not surprising given what I've done to you," he said in a calm and serious tone. "You had no consideration for my feelings. You just didn't care. You were always so stuck up, thinking of yourself as high and mighty. It pissed me off, but I couldn't do anything about it. So you know what I did? I persevered, training day and night while you dozed off on your pedestal you claim was higher than the clouds. This is what I always wanted. What I waited for nearly a year. You, me, one-on-one. No holding back," Izuku said. Suddenly, in a blinding speed, Izuku appeared right below Katsuki, delivering a vicious uppercut. "So hurry up and hit me already," Izuku yelled out. Katsuki, recovering from the hit, spun around, swinging a vicious left hook at Izuku, who grabbed his arm. Suddenly, an explosion came out of the palm, forcing Izuku to pull his head back to dodge it. Katsuki then tried an uppercut with his free hand, but Izuku dodged that one as well. Lifting Katsuki over his shoulders, he threw him over his shoulder, slamming him onto the cement floor. Before Katsuki could get up, however, Izuku took advantage of the opening and kicked him in the stomach, knocking him back down, coughing. "Come on, is that all you've got?" Izuku yelled at him. Katsuki gritted his teeth and let out a roar, as his explosion quirk ran wild, creating a huge explosion. "Yeah, that's the spirit, keep at it," Izuku said, as he looked upon the destruction Katsuki made. "You were always below me, always inferior, but despite all of that, you still try to help me. Your idiotic smile, clinging onto me like you think you're my equal, despite my numerous denials. It pisses me off," Katsuki yelled out, as a murderous smile appeared on his face, as explosions surrounded the area, blowing Izuku back. Meanwhile, back on the roof, Ida stood by the bomb. Izuku is really into his villain roles, so I guess it's only fitting to follow suit, right? In order to become a hero, I must cloak myself in darkness, thought Ida, as he turned towards Ochako. "I am the ultimate evil," Ida said, trying way too hard to sound menacing, making her chuckle. "It would appear that you have come. No matter, my compatriot will have your friend taken care of any minute now. As for you, I enacted a counter-strategy and removed everything on the floor." Continuing his villain acting, "You've miscalculated, hero." "You're really committed to your role, aren't you?" Back downstairs, the two rivals were neck and neck, attempting to find an opening to attack, but every time Izuku slowed down, he found himself in an awkward position. Soon he started to run out of breath, allowing Katsuki to deliver an explosive punch to his abdomen, burning his suit and revealing his bare chest. "That's it, Kachan. Show me the rage you felt when I ridiculed you. Come on, I'm still standing," Izuku yelled out, despite coughing out blood. Suddenly, Katsuki raised one of his hands. With pleasure. Izuku's eyes widened as his analyst mind allowed him to piece things together. Even the observers, including All Might, figured out what was to come. Katsuki, stop, are you trying to kill him? All Might yelled into the intercom. Shut up, you old fart. I don't give a shit anymore if I win or not. Go to hell, Deku, Katsuki yelled, as he pulled a pin, launching a huge amount of nitroglycerin at him. Izuku, witnessing the initial blast, quickly ducked under cover as a massive chunk of the building was blown away. Even Ida and Ochako felt it on the top floor. The blast was aimed directly at me. He really was trying to kill me, Izuku said to himself, coming back to his senses as a nostalgic rage returned to him. That's it. For attempting murder, Team D is disqualified, All Might called out. I don't give a crap, Katsuki yelled, loading up another shot. Deku, you're all mine, Katsuki yelled out, ignoring All Might's calls. That's it, I'm calling this off, All Might said, until a different voice was heard. Don't. I got this, the voice said. Izuku, you need to get out of there. Katsuki's going to kill me? Yeah, I knew, and thus, this will be a much more realistic training exercise, replied Izuku. Izuku, wait, was all Might could get out before the feed was cut. I'm surprised you're not pissing yourself, said Katsuki, reloading a second round. Of course. In fact, since life and death doesn't matter between us anymore, Izuku said in a far more composed manner. Mind if I bend the rules a bit? Suddenly, reaching into his robe, he pulled out the syringe, which caught Katsuki's eyes, who launched the second round directly at Izuku. A loud explosion was heard as the cameras on the inside were destroyed. All Might, after seeing this, got off his chair and hurried to the site where the two were fighting. As the smoke cleared, Katsuki regained his senses, not seeing any signs of life. He called out, Deku! No response. Alright, Katsuki, keep calm. This is not happening, you hear me? This didn't just happen, Katsuki said to himself, trying to keep calm. Suddenly, he heard something coming out of the rubbles, and he, for a brief moment, felt a sense of relief. Deku! Suddenly, his pupils dilated as the thing that crawled out of the rubbles vanished, and in the blink of an eye, he looked down to see a sharp claw lodged in his abdomen. The thing still had the same facial features as the student, but its skin was a light purple, and his body much more muscular. His eyes were pitch black with red pupils, and his tongue hung out, blackened at the tip. Flashback. What was in the syringe you're gonna give me, boss? Izuku asked All for One. It's not complete yet, but it still works fine. I modified the trigger drug that buffs quirks by mixing it with my All for One's ability to give other quirks, effectively creating a quirk injection / steroid hybrid, replied the boss. Is it permanent? Asked Toga, concerned about Izuku's safety. No, only temporary, but when injected, for a brief period of time, the user will become so powerful that they lose their more human aspects, replied All for One. So they kinda turn into Nomus? Asked Toga. If that was the case, then I wouldn't have given it to you. You see, unlike Trigger, the user of this new drug is still conscious, but it does have a set list of drawbacks. Heavy strain on your body, memory blanks, but its most important weakness, it burns out my quirk after use. Looks like the whole time slow thing was fun while it lasted, Izuku thought. Katsuki was still in shock. What are you? Katsuki uttered as blood poured out of his wound. Izuku said nothing and only gave him a grin, causing Katsuki to get angrier. Tell me, you monster, Katsuki yelled as he shot Izuku with a barrage of explosions. But as the smoke cleared, he saw not a body, but what appeared to be a turtle. Hard shell. This was only one of the new quirks Izuku received with the injection. His left hand started to contort as he raised his arm and pointed it at Katsuki. By the time he was pointing at him, his arm had morphed into a metallic amalgamation of guns, missile launchers, and blades. This was his second quirk, mechanization. Arsenal mayhem. Izuku fired a barrage of scrap metal bullets, blades, and other metallic bits as Katsuki scrambled to avoid the upcoming barrage. Sadly, he tripped due to the amount of rubbles lying nearby and fell, allowing the storm to catch up and consume his entire body. That should do it, Izuku said to himself. Suddenly, his eyes dilated as the man he thought was dead came charging out of the debris, bloody with metallic bits lodged in his flesh as he regained the murderous smile he had earlier. Izuku, seeing this, smiled back. Yes, come at me. We'll finish this, guns blazing. Let's end this together. In a Hail Mary of glory and death. Izuku yelled out, as his size and muscles practically doubled. Deku! Kachan! One of Izuku's arms turned red hot and started to glow with hair and spikes sprouted out of his other arm, while both of Katsuki's arms were glowing with nitroglycerin. As the two of them clashed, the whole building collapsed while Ida and Ochako were fighting and the shockwaves shattered the windows of all nearby buildings within a half-mile radius. What was that? Ochako said to herself. Take my hand, Ida called out as the building collapsed, trapping the two under a mountain of rubble. The building's collapse was the mere beginning though, as at the center of the pile of rubble lay Izuku and Katsuki, still exchanging a flurry of fists. Were the sounds each respective fighters were making. Izuku was slowly gaining the advantage as he heard Katsuki's hands crack from hitting his body's hard shell too much, and felt that he was nearly at his limit. Sadly, he also felt the drug losing effect. I've got to end this, and fast, Izuku said to himself. Just try, Katsuki said, taking advantage of the opening to land a solid hit on Deku's cheek. Izuku spat out some blood as he felt his hard shell softening. His left arm was losing heat while his right was getting duller and his overall muscles and skin were turning to normal. Knowing there was not much time left, he needed to formulate a plan. What's wrong, Deku? Out of steam? Katsuki asked. Suddenly, Izuku's punches just stopped. Not wanting to lose his advantage, he quickly delivered a quick barrage of explosive punches. With enough strikes, Izuku was knocked off his feet. Katsuki, seeing this, rose his hands in victory. Suddenly, Izuku's eyes opened up as he gave out a smile. Don't celebrate too early now, Izuku said as he held his breath, slowing everything down to a near stop. It was a gamble, but I needed to stop punching to catch my breath. Now, Kachan, you're done for. Ducking under Katsuki's fist and channeling all of his might into his right arm. Metallic, red-hot spikes out of his right arm that regained its size and mass as he delivered a sky-shattering punch to Katsuki's stomach. With time still in slow motion, and with the last remnants of his borrowed quirks vanishing, he knew it was only a matter of time before his time-slow quirk also disappeared. Slowly walking away from Katsuki's imploding stomach, he counted the time before time itself sped up to normal. 5. Izuku looked around to make sure no one else saw anything. 4. He dug under some rubble and dragged out Ochako and Ida. 3. He dug out his phone, miraculously still working, and typed a message to the League, claiming he needed a new quirk. While he knew the message will only be sent after time speeds up, he still put the phone back into his pocket. 2. He took a good look at his state and at Katsuki's. His entire top half was naked and covered with bruises and burns. Blood leaked from his head, going all the way down to his shoulder, that was also bleeding. 2 of his ribs were broken, as well as his left femur, which was cracked, and he had a really nasty burn coming from his right arm, which was unused to parry Katsuki's initial blast. Katsuki himself wasn't looking that much better, however. Metallic bits were lodged into his shoulder, his sides, and left knee. He had 3 stab wounds from the initial stab Izuku took at him, just as bruised as burnt, maybe noticeably less but still severely, and was gonna have a lot of internal injuries. 1. Izuku sat cross-legged on the ground in front of Katsuki and waited. 0. Time came back to normal as Katsuki coughed out a carpet of blood and was sent flying through what was left of the building, smashing through the piles of debris on the way before getting embedded in the wall headfirst. His body was limp, unconscious. Guess I did it, Izuku said. Izuku, Ida, and Ochako came to their senses. Are you okay? Asked Ochako, looking like a worried mother. Yeah, ask that to him, Izuku said, pointing at Katsuki. Wait, you beat him? Ida asked. Yeah, wasn't easy though. The kid is nuts, Izuku said. Suddenly, Ida and Ochako both hugged him at the same time. We're so glad you're safe, Ochako said. Ah, it's fine. Looks like it's all over now, Izuku said. Soon after, All Might along with a bunch of other pro heroes showed up. Recovery Girl was also there to attend to their wounds. According to her, Katsuki might be experiencing some memory loss due to the hit to the head he received, which Izuku was glad to hear as he wouldn't remember him using the drug. Izuku and Katsuki were later taken to the infirmary that day as the training continued as normal. Towards the end of the day, however, Izuku found out that he wasn't going to be able to go home due to his injuries and had to stay the night. He was fine with the news, but bummed he wouldn't be able to return to the hideout. It may seem corny, but the League of Villains were like his second family now. He knew every member very well, made friends with a lot of them, even Shigaraki, and did several team-up missions with them. So despite staying at the infirmary and being showered in praises given by other students who came in to congratulate him for beating Katsuki, whom everyone agreed was a jerk, He missed Kurogiri's supportive attitude, Choice's split personality, Spinner's constant boasting, and even Shigaraki and his Shigaraki-ness. But most importantly, he missed Himiko Toga. Her smile, playfulness, and personality was always something he enjoyed after a long day of school. Later that night, when Izuku was lying in bed, however, he saw the window slip open, and the person who opened it made his heart almost leap with joy. "I enjoyed your fight, Izu. You were pretty wild," said a familiar voice. "Toga, it's so nice to see you," Izuku said. "Did you like my costume design?" asked Toga. "Yeah, property of HT was a little too much though," replied Izuku. As Toga sat in his bed, she leaned towards Izuku, placing a hand on his chest. "You must have went through quite some hard time fighting that jerk. Mind if I help you relax?" asked Toga. "If you're gonna tickle me when I'm helpless, then go ahead. But note that my revenge will be 10 times. Before Izuku could finish, however, Toga leaned in and kissed him. Izuku did not protest. Before things got too serious, Izuku told her, "I'm glad to have met you, Toga. Joining the League of Villains was the best choice I've ever made." "Yeah, I love you too, Izu," Toga responded.
愛してる